I'm Steve Ledoux, Town Manager. Our moderator, Don McKenzie, is not able to be here this evening, so one process we have to go through before we actually get into town meeting is that you as town meeting members will have to choose a temporary moderator for the evening. So I am going to turn it over to Town Clerk Eva Skarotic to open up nominations for temporary moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledoux. As Mr. Ledoux had stated, the moderator is not available for this special town meeting, so under Town Charter Section 3-2 and General Laws Chapter 39, Section 14, town meeting will now elect a temporary moderator to preside over this special town meeting. Are there any nominations for this temporary moderator from the Board of Selectmen or Finance Committee?
I nominate Richard P. O'Brien of 327 Nagog Hill Road, Acton, to be the temporary moderator for this special town meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Is there a second? Thank you. Finance Committee? Hearing no further nominations, excuse me, Ms. Green has nominated Richard P. O'Brien of 327 Nagog Hill Road of Acton to be the temporary moderator for this special town meeting. Would those in favor of electing Richard P. O'Brien of 327 Nagog Hill Road in Acton, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The vote is unanimous. I will now swear in the Mr. O'Brien as moderator for this town meeting. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to faithfully perform the duties as moderator for this special town meeting? Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And to each of you, a happy Groundhog Day. I think your presence here tells me you obviously understand freedom and democracy. They are not rights, but privileges that we earn every day. And thank you for joining in tonight. I just have a couple of comments I want to make. I would like first to recognize the infrastructure that recreates even a special town meeting. The number of people involved, the leadership of the Board of Selectmen, the involvement of the Finance Committee, the people who run the lights, the sound system, the auditorium. It's just, there's no let up, and we really are indebted to them, and I hope that you always remember that and thank them for that extra work and effort. I am Dick O'Brien. I am your moderator for the evening.
Mr. Moderator.
Speak up. Be recognized.
Thank you. I object to your opening remark.
Mm-hmm. Which is?
I am Mike Farquhar. I live at 9 Agawam.
And what is your objection?
Our freedoms, sir, are not privileges. Our freedoms, as stated in our Declaration of Independence, are given to us by God. They do come with responsibilities. We have to protect and defend them. But our freedoms are not privileges. Please don't make that mistake. On the land where Isaac Davis and others went and fought for our freedoms against the most powerful king on the face of the earth, where they gave their lives so that we could live in that God-given freedom. Thank you.
I think you've left out earned, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you. I don't know how each of you got to Acton, but my wife Nancy and I moved to Acton as newlyweds-to-be 50 full years ago this month. Nancy had grown up nearby. I came from Detroit, a large industrial city in the Midwest, right? Acton was half the size it is today, and I could not believe how much interest I found here. Great education in the public schools, lots of families in the neighborhood in South Acton where we moved, the town meetings. I couldn't believe the access how I could meet town leaders and immediately participate. Unless you've lived in big cities without New England traditions and democracy at hand, you don't realize how great it is that we have it. I trust you that I will serve you well as a moderator today, because I've had a fair number of opportunities to be a moderator. For the last 22 years, I've been and continue to be the duly elected moderator of the Acton Water District. And I'd certainly like to invite you to come to our annual Water District meeting Wednesday, March 16th, just very shortly, at the Acton Memorial Library up Main Street. Love to have you there. Water is one of our precious resources. I've also been a substitute moderator here for the Acton town, and have faced some interesting challenges, and I was talking to some folks earlier who have some background and experience here. As an example, I was a temporary moderator several years back when our principal article of business was to vote to accept the town of Maynard to join the Acton-Boxborough Regional School System. And there was a large meeting. The citizens voted, and they voted not to accept that change. But amazingly, one of our fellow citizens arrived and participated in the meeting, apparently after having had a few too many oats in his refreshments, and with the help of the Acton patrolman on duty, I had the over-friendly citizen shown to the door, becoming one of, if not the only moderator that I'm aware of that ever had to take that action. I don't anticipate such a kind of an action tonight on Groundhog's Day. That's not going to happen today. I know that. But this evening we'll address one very important educational resource, Minuteman High School. My simple rules of conduct are: respect your fellow citizens who address us, so give your name and street when recognized, and always address the moderator first. And that's it. You must be brief and to the point, and make sure you project when you use the microphone. In terms of full disclosure, I can be referred to as the education moderator, I think, in some respects, but all 6 of my wife and my children attended Acton-Boxborough Elementary, junior high, and high schools here in the town. I currently have grandchildren in each of those segments of the town school levels. My daughter, Maura Kennedy O'Brien Champagny, has chosen the noble profession of teaching history here at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School and being a coach of athletics. My daughter, Erin Marie O'Brien Betez, is the director of Acton Community Education. I do not have any direct connection with Minuteman High School, but I am an admirer of the work they do for our Acton citizens. So let's get to the business of the meeting. We have a motion that I'd like to read for you. Article 1, which you may have seen in your special town meeting warrant. Article 1, amendments to the Regional High School District Agreement of Minuteman Regional Vocational School District. To see if the town will vote, consistent with Section 7 of the existing agreement with respect to the establishment of a technical and vocational regional school district for the Minuteman Regional Vocational School District, to accept the amendments to said agreement, which has been initiated and approved by a vote of the Regional School Committee on December 21st, 2015, which has been submitted as a restated regional agreement bearing the date of December 21, 2015, to the Board of Selectmen of each member town.
I'll say so moved, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Selectman Adachi. Is there a second? The motion's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am Janet Adachi. I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen, and I am here to do the presentation, but before I do that, I would like to introduce some of the folks to my left. The superintendent of the Minuteman School, Dr. Ed Burquillan, is sitting immediately to my left. To his left is the assistant superintendent, Kevin Mahoney, and to his left is Pam Norse, who is a fairly new Acton representative on the Minuteman School Committee. Mr. Moderator, as I mentioned earlier, I would like your assistance in asking town meeting to authorize Dr. Burquillan and Mr. Mahoney to speak to town meeting, probably during the question and answer period at the end of my presentation.
I consider that a motion. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. May we vote on this voted on this question? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. I have a feeling that some of you, if you were at the special town meeting last November, are wondering why we're again talking about Minuteman. That particular issue had to do with the request for withdrawal from the Minuteman district of the town of Wayland. At the time of our special town meeting, Lexington had already had a special town meeting and voted to disapprove the request. And because any withdrawal requires unanimous approval of all the member towns, we really, in Acton, didn't have to do anything, and so we voted to pass over that article, which spared Ms. Norse from having to do a much lengthier presentation, which I have saved for you tonight. In any event, what happened after that meeting, pretty much right after the meeting, is that the decision was made to bring all of the representatives of all the boards of selectmen of all the 16-member towns together to try to revisit the regional agreement and see if we could come to terms about amendments and resolve all the differences that have been persisting for several years and really hampered the district. The selectmen representatives did that. We had a number of intense meeting sessions at night, the last one being December 16th, when people really had other things that they were pretty busy with, but we did it. We made the recommendation to the Minuteman School Committee, and the result is the special town meeting here and in all of the other 16-member towns starting last month and continuing through the month. So, to my presentation. New Minuteman, this is the cover page I'm not used to looking at. I've been looking at everything else at the back, so okay. This is what I call my roadmap. It's something I learned when I was in law school. It's basically a way to keep the reader paying attention when the reader's reading a really long, boring legal article. You remind the reader where you've been, where you're going, but in this case, this roadmap is basically to let you know when my presentation is nearing its end, and you'll be able to have relief from the constant talk. But what is Minuteman? What is the regional agreement? How will the agreement change? Why now? What is the impact on Acton? What are the alternatives to Minuteman? This is included because I've had some questions about that. And then next steps. Minuteman, as it's referred to in short, is the Minuteman Regional District, which is also known as the Minuteman Regional Vocational Technical School District, which is why it's called the Minuteman Regional District, because there are about 3 too many words, and even I have difficulty remembering what they are. It was established in 1970 to provide vocational technical education. The regional high school, as many of you know, is located in Lexington, right off 2A. 60-member towns are in the district, including the town of Acton, and actually, I think 11 of those were original founding members. 5 joined later in 1979. Each member pays an annual assessment. You will hear at annual town meeting this year the presentation of the Minuteman budget. Minuteman is a separate entity from the municipal government and the Acton-Boxborough School District. And finally, the regional agreement is the governing document. So this is a map. And I hope it shows up better up there than on this little screen. But these are the 16 towns. To the far right is where the Lexington campus is. It is a very large geographical campus. It's 40 miles wide, east to west, and then it's about 30 miles tall or long, north to south. The Minuteman curriculum is an interesting mix of traditional academic subjects and then also high-quality career and technical education. The academic courses do include advanced placement courses, which I think some people don't realize. In addition, there are industry-supported career and technical education courses in 16 different careers. The students must pass the MCAS exam. A majority of the graduates pursue college, and the balance of them start their careers and they receive their certifications. All right. I need one of those people who flips pages, you know, when you're playing music. Sometimes my talking gets ahead of my notes, and it's a problem. But anyhow, the regional agreement, which is actually the heart of what you will be addressing today, you'll be addressing amendments to the regional agreement, is, as I said earlier, the governing document for the regional district. It created the district in 1970. It was revised only 3 times, 1973, 1979, and 1980. And 1979 is when there were 4 new members that joined. There was an amendment, and those of you with really good memories will recall that in 2014, Acton Town Meeting was presented with a set of proposed amendments to the regional agreement, and Acton Town Meeting approved those amendments, as did 9 other member towns. Unfortunately, as I said, an amendment requires unanimous approval, and the other 6 member towns did not vote to approve the amendments, and so they never took effect. But never fear, they're back. The newest proposal for amending the agreement includes the 2014 proposals, and then adds the changes that this group of selectmen representatives came to consensus about in December of last year. And as I said, the Minuteman School Committee received their recommendation for all of those amendments, and made their own recommendation on December 21st. So it came back to all the district members, and that's why, as I said, we're having these special town meetings. Now, why we're having them so quickly, I'll get to in a second. So these are the 2014 proposals. And I use highlights loosely because when you're talking about an agreement with amendments, highlights is kind of an exaggeration of how excited people feel about it. But these are the big points. In lieu of sort of using the current enrollment to determine the capital and operating assessments, you have a 4-year enrollment-based rolling average. This, because enrollment is pretty, it varies widely, using an average kind of smooths out the bumps and makes for less volatility in the amounts that towns have to pay. In addition, there's an enrollment-based weighted voting on the school committee. At present, the arrangement is 1 town, 1 vote. This change is particularly important to the larger enrollment towns, such as Arlington. And even Acton will benefit from this change because we right now have about 33 students enrolled, which is a number. There's also a simpler process for withdrawal. Currently, the requirement is for unanimous approval, which has been elusive, which is why we have 60 members, not all of whom agree, and some of which would like to get out. The capital contribution calculation takes into account the wealth of the community, which also is beneficial to Acton. Acton is an affluent town, but it's not in the same ballpark as, say, Dover, Weston, and other towns in our district. And finally, the proposed amendments would allow amendments by less than a unanimous approval, but the big ones, like amending the agreement, still require unanimous approval. The 2016 changes, the ones that the selectmen reps agreed upon, they reduce the minimum capital cost charge from 5 students minimum to 1 student minimum. This really has an impact primarily on the small enrollment towns like Dover and Weston. They often send only 1 or 2 students, but historically, historically have had to pay for 5 students. And time for a little water. But they've historically had to pay for a 5-student minimum. So this is somewhat more equitable, although the wealth adjustment factor that I mentioned may make this a wash. And then there also is a new requirement under the proposed amendments to have non-member communities pay a share of capital costs. Right now, they pay nothing. They send their students, and the cost of capital improvements is borne entirely by the member towns, which has been a very sore subject for all of the members. And finally, there is a special provision for 7 named members in the proposed amendment to consider withdrawing from the regional district with no obligation for any debt that the district incurs after December 10th of last year. As some of you may be aware, the regional district has a proposed new building project, and it's anticipated that the voting for the financing for that project will occur this year at annual town meeting. So why now? I've just alluded to one of the reasons. But the amendments will end years of really disagreement. It's been paralyzing the district. The district needs to do things with the building, and they need to move forward. But if you have members that are not in agreement about these things, then you can't do those things, and it has become a big problem. With the amendments, you clear the air, you address all those problems, you have a more unified and stable district that can move forward with critical decisions, including especially the proposed new building. In addition, if the new building project moves forward, Minuteman has the opportunity to have about 45% of eligible construction costs, and I will not go into what that means because I don't know what it means, but 45% of eligible construction costs of a total projected cost of $145 million be reimbursed by the state. That opportunity will expire June 30th of this year. And that is why, really, we're dealing with amending the agreement right now instead of later. We need to get to the next step, and we're not going to have time to do that if we have to lump everything together later in the year. Furthermore, there are non-member communities that are interested in joining the district, but they want all the issues among the current members to be resolved through the new regional agreement. So what is the impact on Acton? First of all, in general, the general benefits to Acton, the changes would give Acton a stronger voice on the school committee because of weighted voting. The changes would reduce Acton's share of capital costs via the formula that accounts for community wealth. And finally, the changes would help to preserve access to high-quality vocational technical education for Acton residents. There are Acton residents at the high school. They're in the postgraduate stage. And also, the junior high students participate in Minuteman's middle school program. The middle school program is actually given at the junior high in each of the towns that's participating, and it provides for basically hands-on project-based experience and exposure to STEM fields and potential career STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math fields and potential careers. It also provides a bridge for students who might be interested in continuing their pursuits at the high school. The other towns that are involved in this program are, in addition to Acton and Boxborough, Bolton, Stowe, and Lancaster. They pay an additional fee, which actually is lumped in with the annual assessment. And Minuteman hires 5 instructors to provide the training and the education as part of this program to the 5 schools. The budget is around $500,000. And as I said, the cost is included in the annual assessment for each of the 5 towns. The Acton assessment for this coming fiscal year is around $157,000, which is actually down from $160-something thousand in the past few years. So I'd like to give you a better sense of where Acton stands in the district enrollment-wise, and also what the other towns are enrollment-wise. Acton, this is as of, well, I'm assuming it's fiscal 17, because there was a number in the books that I was looking at that said 2017, so I assume it's anticipating enrollment. But in any event, the total enrollment, the most recent enrollment, 673 students. That includes the member town enrollment of 396, which is about 59% of the total, with the balance, or 41%, constituting non-member students, 277. Acton, as you can see in the top line that's sort of shaded blue, is 33. You can see Arlington is the biggest enrollment. And then going down the list, the towns that are considering withdrawal, Boxborough has 7, which is actually high. I think that they've in the past had 5. Carlisle is 5, which is about right. Dover is 2, which is pretty much where they've been. Lincoln is at 11, which is actually high, and I think even their public officials were surprised by the jump. Sudbury is 25, which is a sizable number, but Sudbury is an outlier, very unhappy in the district for reasons I won't bore you with. But Wayland is 2. They have in the past been higher, but I think that they've got diminished enrollment in any event over a longer time. And Weston is 5. These enrollment numbers, by the way, exclude part-time students. These numbers are all full-time enrollments, and these are the numbers that Minuteman uses to determine the assessment for each of the towns. So Acton's 33 is about 5% of the total enrollment, but 8.3% of the district members. And I should mention while I'm at it that this total enrollment right now is 673. They're in a building that was built to accommodate 900 to 1,200 students. It is very big, in addition to being very old, because it dates back to the 1970s. The new building, proposed new building, would be 628 students, with about 83% or 524 students coming from within the district, meaning from member towns, and the balance, or 104, coming from non-member towns. Now, just to give you a flavor of who else is at Minuteman, these are the numbers for special education. Minuteman has the highest percentage of students with what are called individual education plans among schools in Massachusetts. And you can see that in the blue line, which is the third line down, that Acton's share of the IEP students is very substantial. The bottom line showing the district-wide enrollment shows that it's almost 50%. And this adds to the cost overall of the services that Minuteman provides. Okay, financial impact on Acton. These are not as fine-tuned as perhaps some people would like, but this is really peripheral somewhat to the agreement. But if we keep the current 16-member district under the new agreement, Acton's cost will be just slightly lower. It's nothing dramatic, but it would be slightly lower. If towns start to withdraw, then the impact on Acton financially will depend, obviously, on the number of withdrawals and also the number of non-member enrollments. The number of withdrawing towns will be known at the end of February. Towns that want to pursue withdrawal, not just explore it, but actually want to pursue it, have to have, in addition to this proposed amended agreement that you all are addressing, have to have a separate article proposing withdrawal of that town from the district. And so if they approve the amended agreement and their town meeting approves the proposed withdrawal, then they will be considered to be towns that are intending to withdraw at the end of February. I think that Boxborough's town meeting is the last one on February 24th or thereabouts. Okay, I don't have too many numbers here, but this is to give you a sense of what Acton's assessment has been up to this point. And the blue lines at the bottom are really showing the Acton-specific numbers. The line at the top is the district budget, and you can see that the district budget for annually has hovered just below $20 million. And actually, for fiscal year 17, which is the upcoming year, the budget has shrunk just slightly. The Acton assessment, the share of it, I mean, based on percentage, say for fiscal year 17 is about 5.4% at $1.06 million. And I have a separate bar below for the middle school charge, which I mentioned is part of the overall annual assessment. And as I mentioned before, this coming year, it will be $157,000. Okay, unfortunately, I just showed you a slide through fiscal year 17, and unfortunately, I don't have projections for, say, the impact of the amended agreement on Acton's costs in fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19. But what I do have is a slide showing the effects of the amended agreement and then also the current agreement, assuming that the new building project moves forward, the debt, and reflecting potential costs, including the new building debt. Okay, so the top line shows the current agreement with 16 members. The total on the right-hand column, $1.105 million. Under the new agreement, which is the second line, same membership, the total is, well, $1.097 million. Not much difference. The change becomes a little larger if you reduce to 9 members, the bottom line in this 3-line chart, and in which case you see a slight uptick in Acton's assessment to $1.155 million. This assumes, though, this little extract makes a lot of assumptions. I wasn't going to put all the detail on this slide because I'm not one of those people who puts the whole spreadsheet on the slide and then looks up at it and says, oh, you can't see that, you can't read it. So I will just explain, this assumes, obviously, the approval of the new building, which hasn't happened yet. I said, as I said, that's going to be a subject for annual town meeting. It assumes that 7 towns actually withdraw, okay, effective as of July of 2017. It also assumes that those withdrawing member towns will continue to send their students as non-member students. That's their hope. Whether that happens is unclear. And it assumes the new school enrollment of 628 students. And it assumes that the member towns will grow their enrollment by 8% a year, which for Acton, assuming you're starting with 33, comes to about 3 students a year or 9 students in 3 years. Minuteman is confident that these growth projections are supported, borne out by a significant increase in applications to the high school for member towns, including Acton, and to other voc tech schools in the area. The new building will be an attraction, obviously, but Minuteman historically has drawn enrollments due to how well it serves its students and their different learning styles. So, what are the alternatives to Minuteman? There's a water break again. And this is really peripheral to the central subject, but people have brought this up, and I think some of it has to do with the fact that Boxborough obviously is exploring alternatives and got a front page spread in the Beacon. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the case for Minuteman. Minuteman, first of all, Minuteman has served Acton's needs well for decades, okay? Acton, I think, was one of the founding 11 or so towns. Annual town meeting, at least in the time that I've been attending town meeting, which is nearly 20 years, has approved the annual Minuteman assessment without debate. And believe you me, I remember the subjects, the issues that were debatable and never forgotten them. So Minuteman apparently doesn't meet that standard. Also, Acton really should remain part of a district whose members place a high value on education and preparing students with essential skills and knowledge. Finally, the alternatives are really very limited for Acton. They have drawbacks, and they might not meet Acton's needs. Okay, and some points that I'd like to make about Minuteman and considering what it provides for the town of Acton is, one, it provides Acton students with a foundation, the education and training that they'll build on for the rest of their lives. It recognizes that for young people, and also true for old people, there are different ways of learning, and that some people thrive with hands-on practical instruction. And I'm think of the motto of MIT, which is mens et manus, it's mind and hand. Third, this is about preserving the combined academic and vocational technical learning opportunity for Acton students who need and want it. And finally, it's about positioning Acton students to take full advantage of growing Massachusetts career opportunities requiring the skills and training that Minuteman provides. So what are the alternatives to Minuteman? Well, the first and obvious one is to bring the Voc Tech operation in-house at Acton Boxborough. Of course, that would require an enormous expenditure of money, a substantial expansion of the physical plant. So it's really not feasible. And I think that back in 1970 or in the late 1960s, when the founding towns partners decided to form this Minuteman district, it had to do with the fact that it wasn't feasible for each one of them to have its own vocational technical program and do a good job at it. So they achieved economies of scale by collaborating on one school, and frankly, they probably also created better quality education with one school. So what's the other alternative? Finding openings for Acton students at another Voc Tech school. Well, this is a problem, especially for a town like Acton, which unlike some of the other smaller enrollment towns, has an enrollment that runs from 25, 30, now 33. There are waiting lists. A majority of the Voc Tech schools in Massachusetts have waiting lists. And then schools like Neshoba Valley, which may or may not have a waiting list, have very small enrollment. So it would be very difficult to get that many students from Acton into the school. Plus, and this is really important, Voc Tech programs are not interchangeable. They're not fungible goods. One is not just like the other. You have to look at the substance, what the coursework is, and cost should not be the determining consideration. I would mention, first of all, to give you a little background about Assabet. Assabet Valley is based in Marlborough. It has 7 towns. Marlborough, Berlin, Hudson, Maynard, Northborough, Southborough, and Westborough. And Neshoba is based in Westford. It includes 8 towns: Westford, Ayer, Chelmsford, Groton, Littleton, Pepperell, Shirley, and Townsend. When I discovered that Maynard was part of Assabet, I thought, well, if Acton were to withdraw from this district and try to get into Assabet, I have a feeling that there might be some pushback based on the long memory of what happened with regionalization. And finally, I have a little quote from a January 22nd Globe article reporting on this whole Minuteman decision-making process and the potential that towns will withdraw. The superintendent at Assabet had confirmed that Boxborough, Lincoln, Sudbury, Wayland had reached out to the school seeking space for their students. And the superintendent said, quote, "They are looking for guarantees, and unfortunately, I don't see any way in which towns could guarantee enrollment unless they were a member of the district," close quote. The Globe article also, interestingly, quotes from Minuteman parents in Boxborough and Sudbury worried that kids like theirs might lose the Minuteman option if their towns withdraw from the district. So, next steps, remember that roadmap, we're getting to the end. What is the real impact of amending, whether the contract gets amended or not? By mid-March, if the agreement is approved, okay, which means that all of the 16-member towns at their special town meetings approve the amended agreement. If the agreement is approved, then by mid-March, the school committee is going to recommend the financing proposal for the new building project, at which point it comes back to all the member towns. And I'm assuming that most of the member towns will put the article on their annual town meeting warrant. The building project requires unanimous approval, and it is deemed to have been approved unless a member town votes to disapprove it. If a member town were to decide not to put the article about the financing proposal on its town meeting warrant, then it would be deemed to have approved by its silence or inaction. But I think that most member towns will actually give the voters a chance to weigh in on what is a pretty substantial obligation. And if any member rejects the financing proposal at its town meeting, there will be a district-wide ballot vote where there's only approval by a majority of the total population is required. As I mentioned before, or maybe I didn't, but if towns are withdrawing from the district, they remain members until July of 2017, at which point they would have no obligation for the debt incurred after December 10th, meaning that if they have fulfilled all the requirements to withdraw, meaning that they have approved this amended agreement and their town meeting has voted to withdraw, then they won't have any obligation for the building debt. Now, a question came up, what happens, okay, the new agreement has to, once it's approved by all 16 members, has to go to the state and has to be approved by the state education commissioner. The timing of that is unclear. So people were asking, well, if you're going to withdraw, if you've confirmed that you're withdrawing, at the end of February you've fulfilled all the steps to withdraw, it doesn't seem right that you, as a withdrawing member, should be able to weigh in on the financing proposal because it's not going to have any impact on you. And was there some way for I don't know, some adjustment or some arrangement that could be made so that withdrawing member towns wouldn't be able to vote on it? There isn't, because they're members. They can still vote on it, but in all likelihood, if they're planning to withdraw, I assume that they will either not bother to have the article on their town meeting warrant, or they'll put it on and they will pass over it. So it will be really the votes of the towns remaining in the district that will matter. So if the agreement is not approved, we have a real mess, because the new agreement addresses all the problems that have existed among the members for a number of years and really hindered the district from moving forward. And so if the agreement were not approved, the 16-member towns would remain 16-member towns, and they would continue to operate under the current problematic regional agreement. And in all likelihood, I would guess that none of them would agree to allow another one to withdraw from the district. You would have to have another proposal along the lines of what we have tonight to resolve what would otherwise be a logjam. There would be more uncertainty about the approval of the financing proposal for the new building, even via a district-wide ballot. There's the potential loss of the proposed state reimbursement of the new building costs, which, as I said, expires June 30th of this year. And something else you need to understand is that the financing reimbursement proposal, it has been continued. It's for the benefit of Minuteman. Minuteman has been grandfathered. Minuteman has had extensions from the state to try to get its plan together, to get its district to approve the proposed financing, but the state has said this is it. If you don't fulfill the requirements, if you don't get your members to approve the financing, that reimbursement rate goes away. The current reimbursement rate is 31%. What would happen if Minuteman didn't fulfill didn't get the district approval of the financing? Minuteman would drop off the Massachusetts School Building Authority's project list. And if it wanted to try again, would have to go to the end of the line and start all over, which could take years because there's no shortage of school districts interested in getting some of the MSBA's financing assistance. MSBA apparently funds only, 7 projects a year. And so it could be years before Minuteman would be back at the front of the line. And at that point, who knows what the reimbursement rate would be. So in summary, the new regional agreement strengthens the regional district government. It stabilizes the regional district membership. It clears the way for the district to address, among other things, the new building project. It resolves member town issues, and in doing so, enhances the efforts to attract new members. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, it guarantees Acton students continued access to Minuteman. Some of you may have seen articles in the Globe. There was one last November talking about how vocational technical skill sets will be increasingly important in the near term because there are more jobs projected in the Boston area to require such training. The MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, commissioned a study by Northeastern that came out last year, and that was what this November Globe article, I think, was writing about. But the study by Northeastern said that there are lots of jobs held by people who are currently employed in the metropolitan Boston area that don't require a college degree, and many of them don't require a high school degree, and there's going to be not only a need for them, but a greater need for them going forward in the next several years. Governor Baker, in his State of the Commonwealth speech on January 21st, actually acknowledged the importance of vocational technical education and committed to investing in his governor's budget, which has to go through all the vetting in negotiation with the legislature, to investing $75 million in voc tech education to enable schools to serve more students and partner with local businesses and colleges. Now, $75 million isn't very much when you consider this is statewide, and you consider that, say, the reimbursement that Minuteman could receive from the state for the school building is $45 million. But it still signals a renewed or an increased interest on the part of the state in providing support to voc tech. So I think that it's really important that Minuteman be in a position to take advantage of all of that interest. Finally, this is, for those of you who are masochists and want to read more information about this subject, you can go to the Minuteman website. It's minuteman.schoolwires.net. It's a lot of that information is also on our town website. The Minuteman Fiscal 17 budget is also on the Minuteman website, and I think I found this by going into the superintendents, the tab for the superintendents. It's somewhere in there. Finally, if you really want to dig into data, which I did this past weekend, I never thought I'd be looking at the Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's data on Mass public schools. You go to that website, and they have reports on all the public schools in the state. You can break them out by vocational technical. They have data about all kinds of enrollments, you know, the high-risk kids, the MCAS tests. I look at those, and I don't understand MCAS tests, so I wasn't going to include that in my report. But you can, it can be very interesting. I couldn't get too interested in it because I had to get a presentation together. But finally, this is a quote from the governor's State of the Commonwealth speech. These schools are a pathway to a brighter future. The schools they teach are widely in demand, and many of them are already well plugged into the job creators in their communities. In an age when too many people are struggling to find work that pays well, these schools have so much to offer, and we should help them make that happen. And I'll take questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Adachi. Your extraordinary explanation. Appreciate it very much. Are there questions from the audience? And you can use the microphones, obviously. We won't worry about pro con at this point. Just tell me what number you're at and what you're doing. Number 4, please.
Larry Smith, 4 Captain Forbush Lane. Just a little reflection on Minuteman Voc Tech School. I went to Concord Carlisle High School. Back in the old days, we had industrial arts, that was what they called it, and that program really helped me learn some technical skills as well as the high school education. I've been very close to Minuteman Voc Tech. My first office building that I built was right next to them at Cranberry Hill, and I've known Ed Boquillan for many years, the superintendent. Ed and I on the Chamber of Commerce helped put Shire in Lexington, and the Voc Tech School, I can tell you, has grown from just the typical or a very good industrial arts program to one now that Ed brought in Shire and has a collaboration with interns and a life sciences. He's really built the Voc Tech School to be a world-class example of how a tech school should be done. So I would support this article. I think it's absurd, however, the original unanimous vote for the 16 community towns was set up. I mean, unanimous vote is almost impossible these days, so this will really help them get their new building done. You know, I can tell you that all of my plumbers make more than my lawyers, so you know, I would wholeheartedly support this project.
If I could ask the person at number 3 to wait for a second. I guess exhibiting some of my rustiness. First of all, because of the extent of the discussion here on the motion, I'd like to read the motion one more time so you know exactly what we're voting on. And then I'd also like to ask the Finance Committee for the recommendation. So let me read this one more time so that we know exactly what we're talking about, and then we'll move to the Finance Committee's recommendation. So Article 1 is the amendments to the Regional School District Agreement of the Minuteman Regional Vocational School District. This is a majority vote that we're going to take. So Mrs. Adachi has moved that the town, acting consistent with Section 7 of the existing agreement with respect to the establishment of a technical and vocational regional school district for the Minuteman Regional Vocational School District, accept the amendments to said amendment which have been initiated and approved by a vote of the Minuteman Regional School Committee on December 21st, 2015, and which, bearing the date of December 21, 2015, to the Board of Selectmen of each member town. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Now, please, Finance Committee, give us your comments, please.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, by a divided vote, the Finance Committee voted to recommend that town meeting approve the revised Minuteman agreement. Before Minuteman, during its initial establishment and since, Acton has been a strong supporter of vocational and technical education opportunities for Acton students. Approval of the revised agreement will guarantee these opportunities in the future. It is not a perfect agreement. Unfortunately, however, in a cooperative agreement between 16 towns, the current group of, or 9 to 12 towns, the probable group going forward, there is no ideal option for any community. Under this agreement, the primary uncertainty involves the exact cost to the taxpayers, but this is less significant than the uncertainties under alternatives. Yes, vocational education is not inexpensive. Minuteman has unique cost drivers such as transportation, as Janet has showed you the size of the region. The region covers a very large geographic area. The number of services it provides is unique due to its significant IEP population. Salaries are high due to unique industry interaction and their geographic relationship to Boston experts. And finally, the out-of-district student population is an unfavorable cost impact that the new regional agreement addresses. Is there a better alternative for Acton? Well, we are unaware of any neighboring vocational districts, Neshoba, Assabet, Shawsheen, for example, that are looking for new communities to join them, and joining a different district is the only way we can guarantee that Acton students would be accepted. Acton students could apply to other schools as out-of-district students, but there will be no guarantee of acceptance, as was previously stated. Building capacity to provide such education in Acton would be cost prohibitive. While the population forecasts are subject to a lively debate, the application rate for Acton students doubled from last year. 16 eighth grade applications have already been received so far at Minuteman from Acton eighth graders. Minuteman is a flawed option, but for a majority of the Finance Committee, it is the best option if we wish to continue to offer vocational and technical educational opportunities for those of our students who need or desire them. We recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can
Yes.
I neglected to say that the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to recommend this article and urge town meeting to also vote to approve. Thank you.
Actually, you're way ahead of me. Thank you. Let me ask the Board of Selectmen to offer that comment
that's-
as a group. Yes, please.
I believe Ms. Adachi covered our comments.
so?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Moderator.
Now, finally, please, your comments.
Catherine Black, Central Street. I actually originally got up to ask about whether the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom had approved of this or had any comments because the original warrant said that it was deferred. However, I do have another question, if I may.
Please do.
Ms. Adachi, do we have any idea of the towns that would be interested in joining the district, provided these other towns leave?
I'm going to defer to the superintendent.
Mr. Moderator, if I may address the question.
Please do.
I've had several larger communities that are not affiliated with any vocational districts say to me, once you have the new regional agreement in hand, come back and talk to us, because they see the new agreement as much more user-friendly. So there is an interest, but until this agreement is done, there is very little interest.
A follow-up, if I may?
I'll allow you to do that, please.
Do we have names on those towns, please, or you're not allowed to say?
Mr. Moderator, if I may answer the question.
You may.
Watertown and Everett.
Thank you very much.
Surely. Speaker number one.
And Sandy Drive. So perhaps this is pushing on an open door, but why not take the chance to show support here? So we have 3 children. Our first 2 were lucky enough to go through AB here and got a spectacular education and was absolutely wonderful. And they've both gone on to academic success afterwards, very pleased. Couldn't have imagined a better high school career for them than what they got at AB. And then our third child, Alex, who my son is over in the corner, reminded me of a very important concept that didn't come easy for those who look at vocational schools in a different, more traditional way, is that there really isn't a one-size-fits-all when it comes to education. And I think that Acton has always been very committed to doing the right thing for individuals, from the special ed programs to all the variety of kind of services and extracurriculars that we offer, because not every kid is the same. And for those who think that the vocational school is about carpentry and HVAC and plumbing and all that, yes, that's all true. But it's also got robotics and engineering and biotech majors. And my son is majored in environmental science and is now awaiting anxiously college acceptances for marine biology majors and stuff. So I think it's just been a wonderful experience at Minuteman. It is different, but it's different in all the ways that it should be different, in that it offers hands-on education to kids that need a different approach than what they potentially get from the straight classroom academic intensity that comes from AB. So I would just offer my support for this. I hope that the recommendations from the formal boards resonate with everyone, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do I see you, please?
Janet Mitchell, 711 Avalon Drive. My daughter is a sophomore at Minuteman, and I just wanted to say that I support the decision for Acton. This has been a fantastic opportunity for her, being able to go to Minuteman High School, and she's been doing really well. She does have an IEP, so it does help that she is there, and you do have a good special education program. I had one child who went through Weston, and I knew that for my daughter it would have been tougher for her. My son did struggle, and he probably would have benefited going to Minuteman as well. But anyway, he stuck it out through Weston. But we moved to Acton, and so she's been going to Minuteman now. And I'd like her to be able to finish out her high school career at Minuteman. And I just want to say thanks very much for the Minuteman Voc Tech School.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments at the microphones, I guess we're at a point where we would like to ask you to take a vote. This is a majority vote, so I'll take a voice vote first. And let me ask you, all those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we've done a yeoman's job for this Groundhog Day, and I thank you very much for your participation, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Was it moved, or a second? Second. Let's go. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We got it. Thank you.